What's up, everybody? My name is Bex, and I'm here to talk to you all about the kick-ass world of women's professional wrestling. Specifically, the current AEW women's roster. We will talk through what's currently going on in Dynamite, Collision, even Ring of Honor, and all the pay-per-views, getting deep into the lore and predictions for next week. Then we will go back in time to the beginning of AEW and the birth of the women's roster, covering past episodes of Dark Elevation, Rampage, as well as all the Dynamites and Collisions and pay-per-views. So we don't miss any women's action because it all fucking rocks. Then we will take a cruise down memory lane and chat about a women's wrestler from the Knockouts division, Attitude Era, the Diva Era, and WCW for what it was worth. We might find some hidden gems or matches that were just plain not given a chance. It's 2025 and women's wrestling is hot as fuck, but there is still not enough spotlights on it for my liking, so we have decided to do something about it. This is Don't Call Me Diva. In this, our first episode of Don't Call Me Diva, I'll be blabbering on about myself and sharing my story of how I became the passionate wrestling fan I am today. I'll start from my first ever episode and tell the tale of how I was gripped in wrestling's vices and how my dreams for a proper wrestling's roster began. You'll get a bit more about my journey in and out of the scene, my permanent return to watching wrestling, discovering all the other companies out there, and then get into why I love the AEW women's roster so much. I started my wrestling journey in '88. I've watched ECW, WWE/F, WCW, TNA, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and AAA, and been to a few local shows here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Sidebar, nothing hits like a local indie show, so try and get out there once in a while, okay? Never take yourself seriously as a wrestling fan. Let yourself go and enjoy getting swept up in the atmosphere. It will definitely smell funky, but don't be a dick and have fun. Wrestling brings me joy, but seeing women get physical in the ring and cutting promos just lights my world and makes everything a bit more brighter. I've watched women in wrestling go from hardly used to being more involved, but mainly in manager or valet roles, seen a flurry of matches being televised, only to then completely disappear from the show. Luna Vachon, Jacqueline, and Bull Nakano were taking women's strength to new heights. Francine was taking like insane bumps. Like she was like a tiny ass chick, and fucking damn the tables that woman went into. Anyway, Ivory was working her ass off in the ring and on the mic, I would say. And then there was Sable with that dance. Whew, fucking hell. That was a bit rough. But with that said, there will be no dogging of any women on this podcast. Their achievements will be discussed and celebrated in all of its kayfabe glory. But Sable couldn't dance for shit, and that grind was painful, and her husband's a wanker. Okay, now I'm done. When China came along, everything in my mind changed. I wanted more out of women's wrestling. I craved it. I wanted a whole roster full of women so we could have a tag division. Was that so much to ask? Apparently, it fucking was. I would get my wish eventually, but it took years of bra and panty matches. Can't fight! Can't fight! Puppies, Jezebels, and 3-minute matches to get there. And to be honest, it's still not where I think it should be. So, in the immortal words of Roosh, I am taking the bull by the horns. And every week, I'll be bringing you a weekly roundup of AEW's women's division. Why just AEW, you ask? When there is also a talented pool of women's wrestlers on other shows? Because I love it. That's why. I can feel the joy through the telly every time I watch AEW. I've been there since day one's first signing of Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, to the most recent signing of Megan Bayne, who seems to be aligning herself with Penelope Ford, which I am super excited about, but also like left field. But hey, okay, let's just go with it. It's my opinion that AEW's women's roster is stacked full of talent, and I want to shout about it because they motherfucking deserve it. I fucking love women's wrestling. I was an undiagnosed ADHD kid for 7 years, who lived in her head 99% of the time. I loved action movies, but hated that the cast would either be 100% male or the woman would just be there for eye candy / damsels in distress. I loved cartoons, thought people communicated in real life like they did in said movies / cartoons, which led to some serious miscalculations of how to handle many a situation. I sang more than I spoke and desperately wanted to express myself physically in a more physical way than was allowed. When I saw my first episode of what was, at the time, the WWF Golden Era, I was hooked. It felt like wrestling was made for me, so paying attention to every little detail was very important. The spectacle, the in-ring action, the promos, the ring attire, the commentators, the lore. Wrestling had everything. Seeing adults act like fully immersed characters that could also be physical in creative ways would open up a whole new idea of what life could be. Being performed in front of a live crowd allowed me to get more immersed because I would imagine myself being in that crowd. I would daydream about being in one of the next towns being advertised, and for some reason became really intrigued with this place called Milwaukee. It sounded magical, and they always went there. The show would come on around 10:30 or 11 p.m. As the intro swoops along the lake in this canyon-like simulation, the excitement would start to build in me. The chair I was sitting on was huge, so my feet would dangle over the edge. The light would be off, so I'd pretend to be zooming along with the logo. I'm already at level 10 of excitement, and my imagination is primed and ready to go. The old school WWF logo would lift up towards the screen, then lightning hits the logo. Pya, pya, pya! The World Wrestling Federation. What the world is watching. Because we brought out everyone else. Little me would be beaming in the dark, wiggling my feet, and ready to watch my favorite thing. When I think back to who I remember seeing compete from the women's division, Rockin' Robin rarely stands out, but mainly as a red blur running the ropes, because she was so goddamn fast. The Jumping Bomb Angels blew my mind. They had the look, the attitude, all the moves, and all the talent. Since we all know Moolah was a sack of shit, I have no good in saying that even as a 7-year-old child, I had no time for her and thought she should get her old ass out of the ring. Meh. Big Bertha was a lot of fun. She was strong, super colorful, and a little nuts. Big Bertha was also big, and I loved that her body type went against the so-called norm. I was only 7, but I already knew way too much about the misogynistic mind frame, and the things the commenters would say about her did not do anything to counter that thinking. But Big Bertha was fucking awesome. Mini men's wrestling sidebar. There won't be many of these, as this is not that kind of podcast, but I wanted to share this extra bit of lore, as it did cement my love of wrestling. The Road Warriors, the Rockers, and Demolition were my favorite wrestlers. I have loved tag team more than singles since day one. Inception sidebar. My first ever singles wrestler, my first ever favorite singles wrestler, was the Red Rooster. I hated his name, and the fucking Rooster Crow sucked. But I loved his red mohawk, and I thought he was really good in the ring. But the two women who stand out the most in my early memories are, of course, Miss Elizabeth and Sensational Sherry. I may have seen 1 or 2 of Sherry's matches, but it's her work as manager for the Macho Man Randy Savage that first captivated me. The venom she would put into her words, matching her energy with Macho, made her segments always great. Sherry was iconic as Shawn Michaels' manager. And then when she went to WCW, Sensational Sherry became Sister Sherry with Harlem Heat. And holy flying fraggles did Sister Sherry goddamn kill it. She even made this fucking yokel manager doofus whose name is not coming to my head and I do not care, Colonel something a fuck. She even made him go goo goo gaga over her wild ways. Fucking douchebag. But that's beside the point. Sherry's makeup and outfits were wild and sometimes a choice, but always bold, dramatic, and spectacular. I loved how she had no fear when it came to interfering in matches and getting physical with the men. Miss Elizabeth was sugar and spice, while Sensational Sherry was a fucking chaos goddess who wasn't going to stand for your shit. And if you didn't have any shit, she could rustle some up for you and serve it to you. In what seemed like a gender war of the 80s and 90s, Sensational Sherry was the first woman I gravitated to. I also remember being really confused whenever WCW would introduce Gorgeous George, because I would always expect a barrel-chested blonde man to come out, but instead we would get this rather gorgeous, busty blonde woman. Wrestling makes no sense sometimes, but that's all part of its charm. Sneaky sassy sidebar. Hot take, but I despised Hulk Hogan from almost the word go. He would never shut up about pythons that were not actual snakes and vitamins that were not actually vitamins. He was boring as fuck in the ring too. But I digress. Life took a mediumly large size shit on my head about a year later, and my memories of watching wrestling are very hazy until about 10 or 11 when we got the Sky subscription service in the house. WCW was just starting its rival programming, and both shows were shown at the same time. Even though it wasn't being broadcasted live in my country, and also a few weeks behind, Sky still want us to have that rivalry feeling and play them both at the same time, but on different channels, of course, because you couldn't really play them on the same channel at the same time unless you overlap them. That would be interesting. Anyway, I digress. But I was back, baby, and ready to catch up on what I had missed. The roster on WWE was still tame, not ramping into their little attitude area just yet, but kind of flirting with it, while still having, doink being doink. WCW shows seemed fresher and definitely felt younger. The Nitro Girls always seemed pointless to me, and I resented them being put on a wrestling show. I wanted women to fight, not dance. I could dance. Wasn't a big whoop. But there was a massive cunt-shaped bump in the road. The remote, the controller of the television, was in the hands of a joyless blob, and I was at its mercy. If I got excited, the sighs, the grunts, the stern warnings to shut up would start. My joy felt like a severe inconvenience to this joyless blob. He was manic with the channel switching, and at a moment's notice, you'd be taken out of one show and trying to catch up with the company we were watching now, whilst trying to remember the last thing I saw on this show. I watched WCW and WWE like this for years. There was nowhere else I could watch it, and it was stressful trying to keep up with the broken episodes. But I did try to catch up when the replays came on later on. The women's matches around this time were still more catfighty, with undertones of, "You might see my boobies!" Slap, slap, slap. The cat was doing whatever her cat thing was. Luna was mean mugging. Miss Elizabeth was looking miserable in the NWO, and Medusa was promoting perfume ringside. Shit was all kind of wrong. The Attitude Era would soon be in full swing, and I was about to have another pivotal wrestling moment. The cultural norm at the time was for women to ideally be flawlessly sexy, but not to have any power over that sexiness. If a beautiful, confident woman had the power over how sexy her character looked and acted, the wrestling world would call her a slut. It seemed like the woman had to live in these specific boxes, and it pissed me off because I wanted better for women in wrestling. Slowly, more women were being used as actual wrestlers, and the Attitude Era would end up bringing back the Women's Championship. It was nothing fancy, but it was a serviceable-looking belt. A little division had grown, but the promos were shite and badly written. Evening wear matches were a joke, and women's wrestling still needed to pussy slam its way through that door if we were going to get anything decent. China was everything, though. What a fucking presence. China changed everything for me. From this moment on, I wanted nothing more than a division of fighting women to take China on and see if anyone could defeat her. Goodness knows what the women's division was doing on WCW, though. It was basically just Medusa. We had Stacy Keibler, aka Miss Hancock, who would take 3 steps to get to the ring. because her legs had secret go-go gadget leg extensions in them. Miss Hancock would torment and distract wrestlers with her feminine charms, but was more of a valet than a wrestler. Daphne was my absolute favorite to watch on WCW, though, because she was 100% unhinged and threw everything into her wrestling. Daphne was so goddamn fucking good that she made me a fan of David Flair. Now, you just let that fucking settle in. Like, I was excited to see David Flair because I knew that meant that Daphne would be coming. Fucking damn. The woman was amazing. She deserved better. The next woman to blow my mind was Lita. She had the alt look, red hair, which I desperately wanted to dye my hair the color of. She had the G-string of power. Her moveset was fast, and she ran the ropes with confidence. The first time I ever saw Lita do a Hurricane Rana, my mind exploded. Holy shit, she was good. Lita gave me hope for the future because I knew I couldn't have been the only one inspired by her. It also gave me the hope that WWE was going to start taking the women's roster seriously. Dreams. More and more women's wrestling was being put on TV, but so was Jerry the King fucking Lawler. The shit he used to say would make my blood boil. There are a whole bunch of women from this area that I am looking forward to going back and discussing. Y'all remember Jillian Hall and her hideous facial growth? That was hilarious. The Boogeyman ended up eating it, and Jillian Hall went on to have an amazing 5-minute reign as the Divas champion. Fucking iconic. Mickey James and her iconic feud with Trish Stratus was another storyline I thought made both women look really strong as competitors. It was a lesbian wet dream, but they got more time to have serious battles in the ring, which was more than most. Mickey brought another level of talent to the roster, and her character work was brilliant. Well, still is brilliant. Life changed, and I was drawn away from wrestling once again. I went traveling and drinking around Aotearoa and then the UK and Europe for a couple of years. It wouldn't be until 2015, drunk in a hotel room after a Bianca Del Rio show up in Auckland, that wrestling would find me again. I turned on the telly, and Roman Reigns' face was on the screen. He'd just done his old whoop-de-doo thing and speared someone. Wrestling! I screamed with delight, got all drunky comfy, and watched the rest of the show, not knowing what the fuck was going on, but that had never mattered before. I wanted to see what the product was like, so now got into watching WWE on the regular. We also started tuning into the big AAA and New Japan Pro Wrestling pay-per-views. It did not take long for me to get pulled back into the world of wrestling, and with the variety that was now available, the excitement just grew. The Diva division gave me a lot of hope that women were getting more time and respect in the ring, but I hated the name with a passion. I began to feel like the game was still rigged for the women of WWE. Bayley was the purest babyface in the company and incredibly over. Her work in the ring was precise, and she worked the crowd better than most. Sasha Banks was a feisty ball of fury with insane crumple physics. She was quick and already had the Eddie Guerrero swagger. Alicia Fox was always entertaining in the ring, has the perfect fisherman suplex, and was the perfect delusional wrestling character. I loved Alicia Fox from the first moment I saw her. Paige was young and had a great look. She was confident in the ring and was definitely not taking anyone's shit. Charlotte Flair was awe-inspiring. Not because of her father, because I was well and truly over Ric Flair by then, but because she gets wrestling and is super talented. My dreams had finally come true, but there was still poison in the diva juice. The writing sucked, and the entire roster had that will they kiss aura around them, and fans still suck too. But you can't have everything. At least it was a functioning women's roster. Sidebar. I am probably one of the only people that wants this, but I really want Charlotte Flair in AEW. I will explain. I wanted to finally have a chance to not be Charlotte motherfucking Flair, the goddamn champion, for once, and get to explore another level of her character. I don't think she will ever get to do that in WWE, and that sucks. because it must be boring as fuck to have to do the same shit over and over again. And then have people on the internet yell at you like it's your fucking decision. But I goddamn digress. This is where I'm going to explain my distaste for the Diva moniker. Back then, everyone knew full well that diva was not a positive word used to describe women, especially powerful women. It was used in the news, in tabloids, and on the internet forums to paint a picture of a bitchy woman who only cares about looking good and has self-confidence. Looking at you, Miss Eva Marie. The belt was pretty, but reminded me of the tramp stamp. And who wants to fight over the tramp stamp champ? Not me. Now, I have sidebar opinions on the word tramp stamp, but now is not the time for that. After 2016, WWE dropped the Diva and went full on tits to the wall. Women's wrestling. TNA had its own women's roster at the time called the Knockouts. I wasn't aware of this division until a lot later, but I thought that was a great name for a women's division. I've caught up a lot on TNA since and wanted to include them in the looking back section of this podcast. It's going to be fun delving into the madness of the Knockouts division. I mean, goodness fucking Christ, the shit they got up to was unreal. 2017, things really started to change and the WWE women's division ramped the fuck up. We got cage matches, a women's only pay-per-view in 2018. Why has that never happened again? The roster was stacked and they finally gave me my ultimate dream. There were now women's tag titles. Bayley and Sasha wanted the tag division to really be something from the moment they won them. They wanted the belts to be respected. And there's some backstage shit that I could get all opiniony about, but that's not my place. The Iconics would eventually win them. And I have to say, I happy cried my face off on the floor and clapped like a seal, wanting some fish. Sidebar, why the fuck did you break the Iconics up? You goddamn baka! During 2018, I had started watching New Japan Pro Wrestling more frequently at the suggestion of my love, which then opened me up to Stardom. Go fucking watch Stardom, y'all. There is free stuff you can watch on YouTube through their channel. Holy shit, it's so good. I'm currently a hate fan, and Saya Kamitani is my favorite right now. We were watching more AAA pay-per-views, broadening my wrestling brain more than ever before, and I started to watch less and less of WWE due to a multitude of reasons, but mainly because the other companies were just better, and murmurs of what was to become AEW started to grow. It sounded like the impossible task, but I was excited as fuck for that first pay-per-view. AEW killed it. And almost 6 years later, they have built up an incredible women's roster, which I now love and will defend till the end. The AEW women's roster has so much passion and have worked harder than I could ever imagine to get where they are today. I am so fucking excited to get you all as pumped up about them as I am. Right, that's enough about me. Let's now run down the AEW and ROH's women's roster. I'll give you an introduction to any current feuds and get you ready to start the journey into women's wrestling if you for some reason listening to this and are not. Before I do that, though, I'll address why I won't be doing a WWE rundown, okay? We'll just get it out of the way. I don't watch it. And it's not because of the extremely talented wrestlers that are on that show. It's just I am not watching it. And that's all that I'm going to say about it on this podcast, ever. If you need more context, you can check my Threads feed because I'm not quiet about it in my public life. But this is not the place for that. Okay. So, first up is the AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Toni Storm. Four-time AEW Women's World Champion, who recently won it back off Mariah May after an absolute battle at Grand Slam Australia. Timeless Toni Storm has taken Hollywood and wrestling by a literal storm. From chin up, tits out, and watching for that dastardly shoe to the whore that we all adore. There has never been a dull moment in this story. Timeless Toni Storm has taken some tried and true wrestling moves and turned them into a winning arsenal. Adding more power to her finishes, the hip attack and Storm Zero, Timeless Toni Storm has turned every trick up her skirt into a difference maker. While Timeless Toni Storm was filming her role as Rock and Roll Toni Storm Rookie of the Year, she perfected the simple roll-up as her winning finish against all of her opponents. Then she used it to beat Mariah May at Grand Slam Australia, where in front of a home crowd, the Timeless Toni Storm was recrowned. Sidebar, this entire story from day one has been some of the best work in the current history of all wrestling. If you are not caught up on this for whatever reason, do yourself a favor and watch it. Mariah May has now completely snapped. She has already ambushed the Timeless Champ and slammed her head repeatedly into a heavy equipment case, dragged Toni by the hair to the stage and quickly delivered a mayday onto said stage and knocked Storm the fuck out. Mariah then demanded the spotlight whilst cradling an unconscious Toni Storm in her arms and screamed at her while she bled. What the fuck is gonna go down at Revolution? Jesus Christ. The champ, Timeless Toni Storm's main finisher is called Storm Zero, which is an over-the-shoulder back-to-belly pile driver. Her hip attack is the best in the business and will absolutely murder an opponent. Timeless has also perfected the roll-up and, as said before, used it to beat Mariah May for the World Championship. Timeless Toni Storm's theme is Dream and Dream Again, done by Mikey Ruckus. Over on ROH, the Women's World Champion is Athena. Athena has been killing it in the last 2 years on ROH. Athena, as of writing this, is day 807 into her iconic Ring of Honor Women's World Championship reign, and has surpassed Samoa Joseph as the longest reigning champion in ROH history. Athena has had some intense fights and many rivalries, but so far no one has been able to stop her. Not even her own minion in training was able to take the title away from Athena. She almost won the Owen Cup, but was defeated by Willow Nightingale. After a mischievous journey in Japan, where she ended up in a title match with her one-time tag partner, Thekla, our favourite champ is now back in ROH and is full of fire, determined to make the biggest noise in wrestling in 2025. Who's going to be able to take Athena's personalised silver spinner belt off her? Fuck knows, but it's going to be fun finding out. Athena's finisher is the O-Face, which is a top rope diving corkscrew cutter, and her theme is The Fallen Goddess by Mikey Ruckus. Next, we have the TBS champion and New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Women's Champion, Mercedes Moné. Say hello to our CEO. The TBS champion, New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Women's Champion, and the Unified Revolution Pro Wrestling Undisputed British Women's Champion and Southside Wrestling's Queen of Southside Champion, making her 4 boats. 4 boats? You know, she probably has boats. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about wrestling, not her side quest for boats. 4 belts, Moné. Her recent reluctant rivalry with Harley Cameron had the whole AEW sicko world entranced. Moné has the Midas touch, and recently everything she touches is turning to money. Mercedes is 165 centimeters of pure talent And recently, the CEO has been unstoppable. But will her upcoming fight with Momo Watanabe from Hate at Revolution lighten Monet of some of her gold? You know, you cannot rule Momo out, but Mercedes is maxed out on all of her abilities and has had a lot of experience fighting Joshi. So I am pumped for this at Revolution. Mercedes uses the Moneymaker as her finisher, which is a gory bomb into a DDT. And her submission is the Statement Maker, which is a double knee backbreaker into a crossface. It is nasty. Nasty. We don't need that nasty thing. Mercedes Monet recorded her own theme tune, CEO, because she's that damn good. Ring of Honor Women's World Television Champion is Red Velvet. Red Velvet is an AEW OG from way back, debuting in June of 2020. Red Velvet has been in the fight since day one, stepping up to Dr. Britt Baker when she was AEW's Women's World Champion. Competed in the first TBS Championship tournament and both of the Owen Cup tournaments. Red Velvet was an ally of Brandy and Cody Rhodes and initially was an opponent of Jade Cargill's, facing her twice but losing both times. Jade must have seen something in Red Velvet during those battles because Jade would recruit Red Velvet into her clique, the Baddies, with Layla Gray. Joining ROH in 2023, she's now splitting her time between the two rosters, and that's given Red Velvet more opponents to sharpen her edges on. In 2024, she was back in the fight for gold. Red Velvet competed in the ROH Women's World Television Championship tournament, but was unsuccessful. She didn't stop and then stepped up to the top woman herself, the ROH Women's World Champion, Athena, giving her a hell of a fight, but coming up short again. Red Velvet took that loss and aimed it at MIT member and ROH Women's World Television Champion at the time, Billie Starkz, and took her title, becoming the new ROH Women's World Champion, and is currently 214 days into her championship. Red Velvet's finisher is called the Final Slice. She uses one of her strong legs to perform a swinging net breaker for more power. And her theme is Stir It Up by Mickey Ruckus. You may have heard of him. And that's the rundown of all the champions currently in AEW and Ring of Honor. You will notice that there are no tag championships in that rundown. I am not happy. I am making this my personal statement that this needs to be addressed soon. And if it is not, I will be writing a sternly worded thread on Threads for the world to see. Thank you very much. Riho. Riho is a 2019 OG and AEW's first ever Women's World Champion, defeating Nyla Rose on the second episode of Dynamite. Riho is only 156 centimeters, but she is made of undestroyable human concrete, whilst being dressed in Visual Kei Joshi goodness. With a sweet smile and an arsenal of hard-hitting attacks, Riho can take a mountain of punishment and has been fighting her way through opponents since 2006. Most underestimate Riho, but they soon learn to regret it. Riho's finisher is called the Samato and is a running double knee smash to the face. Her theme is Little Monster by Gato Move or Gato Move, but I think it's Gato Move. Gatohmove. Nyla Rose. Nyla is a 2019 AEW original and AEW's currently only First Nation and transgender woman on the roster. Nyla Rose managed to defeat her nemesis Riho for her world title in 2021 and her reign of dominance began. Nyla Rose has immense power and agility and makes a tough opponent for many challenges. Her beast bomb Beast Bomb! Her Beast Bomb won her many matches, and currently Nyla Rose has been tormenting the ROH roster. Nyla's finisher is called the Beast Bomb and is a vicious sit-down powerbomb. The Beast Bomb 2 is her theme currently and is by Mikey Ruckus that features Donna Thornton Long. And I would also like to take this moment to say that I prefer the first one. Thank you. Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida was the one who managed to finally defeat Nyla Rose for the AEW World Championship and has won the title 3 times. Hikaru Shida has the power of ancient Japan inside of her, is an AEW OG, and carries her kendo stick to the ring often. Shida travels between AEW and Ring of Honor depending on where the fight takes her, and already Hikaru Shida performs like a veteran. I am so excited to see what Shida does in the future. Shida hits hard and is fast, a tough opponent for absolutely anybody. Hikaru Shida's finisher is the Falcon Arrow, a sit-down suplex slam. And her theme is Way of the Samurai by Shinichi Kobayashi. The Doctor will see you now. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is the first ever signing to AEW's women's division and was able to defeat Hikaru Shida for the world title with her devastating submission, the Lockjaw. Dr. Britt Baker is a real dentist, making the Lockjaw so much more dangerous. Dr. Britt Baker also won the first ever Owen Hart tournament. DMD isn't afraid of a fight, even participating in a heavy-hitting, unsanctioned lights-out match against longtime rival Thunder Rosa. Dr. Britt Baker had a very successful show called The Waiting Room, in which she interviewed various AEW talent with the help of her partner in crime, aka Rebel Reba Rebella. Future AEW Women's World Champion Jamie Hayter would later join the Doctor's crew to unite against the Outcasts. Dr. Britt Baker had fought almost everyone on the roster, but a few months ago was taken out by Mercedes Moné's now ex-bodyguard Camille. Dr. Britt Baker's finisher is her devastating lockjaw submission, a double-arm crossface with a mandible claw. And her theme is The Epic by Downstate. Thunder Rosa was the victor in her and Dr. Britt Baker's epic feud after they laid everything out in a steel cage match. Thunder Rosa stands out in the women's roster for many reasons. Rosa brings fast, hard-hitting lucha libre to the ring and is one of the most passionate and confident wrestlers in the roster. After many title defenses, Thunder Rosa had to pause her title reign due to an injury which would end up taking her out of action for a long time. The world title was put back up for grabs, but the title holder would be referred to as the interim champion. Thunder Rosa did end up relinquishing her title, and eventually AEW decided to completely legitimize the reigns of the current and past title holder. Thunder Rosa is back and is as strong and as passionate as ever. Never one to shy away from a hardcore match, Thunder Rosa's most recent challenge was for the World Championship in a Tijuana street fight against Mariah May. It's a fucking great match, but Thunder Rosa was unsuccessful. Thunder Rosa uses La Rosa as her finisher, which is an over-the-shoulder reverse pile driver. And her theme is Blood and Glory by Mikey Ruckus. We don't mention the other one. Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter came to AEW in late 2019, but it wouldn't be until the debut of Rampage that Hayter would start to lariat her way through the division with vengeance. Despite losing to DMD in her first match, Hayter would later join Dr. Britt Baker, and an alliance was formed between them. Hayter competed in the TBS Championship Tournament, the Owen Hart Cup, and the four-way to decide the next world champion, but was unsuccessful in all 3 fights. Hayter got a chance to fight for the world title once again, and this time Jamie would be successful and defeated Toni Storm. It would be after this win that Thunder Rosa would relinquish her title completely. Hayter would later have a lot of trouble with the Outcasts, as they were some rascally fuckers, and eventually Hayter would lose her world title back to Toni Storm. After a nasty injury that took Jamie Hayter out of commission for a long time, she is now back and is as fabulous as ever, though Julia Hart has been causing her some troubles recently. Jamie Hayter's finisher is the Haterade, which is a ripcord lariat that will ripcord your absolute face off. And her theme is Indignation by Mikey Ruckus. Come on down. Saraya. Now, Saraya is the leader of these rascally outcasts, and Saraya has caused enough mischief to put her on the naughty list for the rest of her life. After bursting into AEW and picking a fight with Dr. Britt Baker, Saraya has been quick to bite back at anyone ringside or even out back. Despite, or maybe because of this attitude, she created the stable The Outcasts with Ruby Soho and Toby Storm. And success came to Saraya after she won the title in a four-way match in London. Saraya's finisher is the Good Night, and is a cradle DDT, and it looks fucking cool. Her theme tune is Zombified by some band called Falling in Reverse. I don't know who they are. Never heard of them before in my life. Mariah May. Now, Mariah May was once an adoring fan of Toni Storm's, yet after May won the Owen Cup and committed the betrayal heard around the world, that love affair was over. Or is it? Mariah May loves as hard as she can punch, and those punches leave deep wounds. Mariah May is unlike any other current competitor in the women's division. She is full of confidence and malice. May trampled through all of those that challenged her for the title, yet after being an unknowing character in timeless Toni Storm's latest film and losing the title to her, Mariah May seems to have broken that little bit more. And she will have her rematch at Revolution. So, holy fuck, people. Something bad is going to happen at Revolution. Mariah May's finisher is Mayday. It is a variation of the sit-out scoop slam pile driver, which is called the Michinoku driver 2B. Yes, we are getting that technical, motherfuckers. And her theme is Dream Over by Mikey Ruckus. Leader of the Vendetta is the virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna Purrazzo is no one you should be playing with. Deonna Purrazzo is no one you should be playing with. She is dangerous in and out of the ring. Deonna stood face to face with someone she had known for a very long time, that of Toni Storm. But this was her first time fighting Timeless, and she was unable to defeat her. Deonna took all of her frustration out on Thunder Rosa, which led to the two of them having a lumberjack match. At this time, it wasn't publicly known that Taya Valkyrie and Deonna had joined forces, which made it easy for Taya to interfere in the lumberjack match, which led to Deonna eventually winning. Thunder Rosa wanted her revenge quick and challenged Deonna to a Texas bull rope match in which Deonna was defeated. Just like Rosa, it's hard to keep Deonna out, and she competed in a four-way fight to challenge Mercedes Moné for her TBS title, but was unsuccessful due to her receiving some payback from Harley Cameron. Now, Deonna's finisher is called the Cosa Nostra and is a packaged power driver, but she also has a very nasty Fujiwara armbar. Her theme is Throne of Gold by our dear, dear friend of the pod, Taya Valkyrie, who is the other member of the Vendetta, is a super strong athlete. From the first moment she entered AEW, Taya challenged Jade Cargill for her TBS title. who was on an unstoppable winning streak. She did not win the title, but that did not stop her momentum. Once Chris Statlander had the TBS championship, Taya tried again to win the title, but was again denied. Taya only became more determined, and this time she set her sights on the world champion, Toni Storm, but was again defeated. To see her teamed up with Deonna makes absolute sense, as they make a dominating team. Taya's finisher is called Road to Valhalla, which is an elevated double chicken wing wheelbarrow facebuster. Her theme is Viva la Wera Loca by Wrestlin' Flu. Emi Sakura. Emi Sakura is a highly regarded veteran of pro wrestling, and to have Emi Sakura in the roster is a blessing or potentially a curse, depending on what side of the ring you are on. Emi Sakura is rich with knowledge and can twist you up and humiliate you before you even register what's going on. Emi Sakura is an OG of AEW and has caused many in the division to step up their game if they were ever to beat her. Emi Sakura has two finishes along with a hard-hitting moonsault. They are the Magistral Castle, which is an arm wrench inside cradle pin, and the Queen's Gambit, which is a double underhook overhead gut wrench flipped sideways into a facebuster. Her theme is Sakura Go Round by Ice Ribbon Project. Harley Cameron. Harley Cameron had her first fight in AEW against the amazing Willow Nightingale, and that was a tough first fight. Harley even joined QTV after that to try a different career approach, but once the network pulled the plug on QTV, Harley decided to face her fears and get back into the game of wrestling. Saraya took Harley on as a member of the Outcasts and was involved in many dastardly deeds. But Harley Cameron was soon on her own again after Saraya disappeared, but this time she had a plan. And some wrath! Harley Cameron fought with Mariah May, challenged Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm, but lost. Picked up some wins on ROH, but could never win a singles fight on AEW television. That was until Harley Cameron finally defeated Taya Valkyrie, and the crowd went fucking wild. Every single sicko is in love with Harley Cameron. She is a world treasure, and we will defend her with our lives. Her fight against the TBS champion Mercedes Moné at Grand Slam Oz, and the whole story leading up to it, is legendary TV already, and it has only just come to its conclusion. So what the fuck do we have in store for the future with Harley Cameron? Harley's finisher is the Backstabber, which is a double knee backbreaker, and her theme is Over the Edge by... Can you guess? Can you? That's correct! It's Mickey Ruckus! And I said Mickey Ruckus again, you dumb fuckhead. That fucking teaches me for taking the piss out of him, doesn't it? Oh. Mikey Ruckus. Julia Hart. Julia Hart is a member of the House of... No, she's not. Not anymore. That is now gone. But it's all right, because everything is fine. Everything is fine. I'm not sad about it. I'm actually not. I've totally gotten over it. I'm all good. Julia Hart from the Hounds of Hell. Julia Hart is Queen of the Black Mist and a member of the Hounds of Hell with Buddy Matthews and Brody King. The Black Mist is what Malachi Black used to infect his... The Black Mist is what Malachi Black used to infect his opponents, and he unintentionally hit Julia Black with said Black Mist, which has since then grown the darkness within inside her, making her stronger and deadlier with every fight she takes on. Julia Hart is the former TBS champion and currently has her eyes set on Jamie Hayter. Julia Hart has this devastating submission called Heartless, and one of the best moonsaults in AEW, and a very nasty hammerlock DDT. Julia Hart's theme is Heart to Heart by Colin Young featuring Emma Boster. Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander is an AEW OG who's been in a few factions and many amazing battles since 2019. Chris is one of the most dominated powerhouses in AEW. Former TBS champion, she was the one who ended Jade Cargill's epic run as TBS champion. Chris may have some hand in fucking Yuta's current mental state, as she was also known to choke him out on numerous occasions while they were both best friends in the faction by the same name. Perhaps the guilt was behind her turning on her good friend Willow and allowing Stokely Hathaway to get into her head. Thankfully, Statlander has worked through that darkness inside her and has recently been her wonderful, determined, and happy self again. Chris has even apologized to Willow. Recently, Chris Statlander stepped up to Megan Bayne and was winning their fight until the Superbad girl Penelope Ford came in and interfered. Megan and Penelope seem to have an alliance that's been formed in secret and have yet to express their intentions for Chris Statlander, and I am suspicious. I'm a suspicious squirrel, and I need answers. Chris Statlander's finisher is the Saturday Night Fever and is a packaged tombstone pile driver. She has a fucking killer 450 splash too. Her theme is Betrayal by Mikey Ruckus that features Katana Blade. The problem, Marina Shafir, is with the Death Riders. And boy, has Marina Shafir been a problem. Marina is in the Death Riders with Claudio Castagnoli, Puck, and fucking Yuta, and the personal bodyguard for Jon Moxley. Marina has been given possession of the briefcase which holds the AEW Men's World Championship. Everything Marina does is painful. She can twist you up into yourself in a moment's notice and make you tap out screaming. Marina does not care for your pitiful screams. Marina's finishes are pretty much every move she can pull off. She is a super dangerous woman. Her theme is One Problem by Mikey Ruckus. Megan Bayne. Megan Bayne is the newest addition to the AEW women's roster and has already been causing havoc in the division. Megan has already picked a fight with Chris Statlander, and instead of fighting fair, Penelope Ford came out and interfered in their fight. Megan insulted Thunder Rosa, who is now fuming and wants to fight her ASAP. It has just begun and it's already chaos. Really interested to see if we can get an explanation on this alliance that has formed between Ford and Bayne. Maybe on this week's Dynamite. We will have to wait and see. Megan's finisher is Bow Down and is a swinging side slam. Her theme is From the Heavens by Mikey Ruckus. Superbad girl Penelope Ford is finally back, and I am so very excited about it. Penelope Ford is an OG of AEW and has been with them from its beginning. Penelope Ford is technically dangerous and very tough. She is not afraid of a hardcore match or using psychological warfare on her enemies. Penelope Ford loves to inflict pain and has been recently taking advantage of Megan Bayne's arrival. Will we get confirmation of this alliance? You can see this question is heavily on my mind. We shall have to wait and see. Penelope has an arsenal of devastating moves, from a killer matrix cutter and stunner to her submission, the Muda Lock, which is a thing of absolute beauty. The theme is Superbad Girl by Mikey Ruckus, although currently we just have the instrumental version of it, and I would like to have this as a formal request to have the lyrics back. Thank you very much. Queen Aminata. Queen Aminata is the moment. She is the one and only, and we worship at the feet of our queen. Queen Aminata has been fighting in AEW since 2021 and has been taking on the ROH women's division since its rebirth. Queen Aminata is a hard-hitting, confident woman who won't ever back down from a fight. She has a hip attack to rival the Timeless One and a plethora of power moves to crush her opponents. Queen Aminata's finisher is the Deadly Queen's Crown, which is a fierce headbutt. Her submission is a real nasty modified double chicken wing. Her theme is called Trap Drill, and that is by unknown. I am not sure who wrote that one. Serena Deeb. The woman of 1,000 holds is Serena Deeb. She is a well-rounded, experienced wrestler with the confidence to boot. Deeb came to AEW to participate in the first World Championship tournament, but was defeated by Riho, who went on to win that exact tournament. Since then, Serena has been stepping up to many past world champions and recently started a beef with Queen Aminata, which ended up in the ring. Despite having seizure attacks that kept her out of the ring, Serena has come back with full force and won that match against Queen Aminata, which was not easy. Serena Deeb has a nasty submission called the Serenity Lock, which is a high-angle calf hold, and her finisher is called Detox and is an elevated double underhook face buster. Her theme is The Professor by Mikey Ruckus. Sky Blue. Sky Blue is an AEW OG debuting in 2021. Blue has competed in the Owen Cup and has challenged tough opponents in the World Champion Toni Storm, the TBS Champion Jade Cargill, Athena, the ROH World Champion, and current TBS Champion Mercedes Moné. Sky Blue got hit with Julia's Black Mist, which drastically changed Sky Blue's demeanor and look. She would end up teaming with Julia, making them a powerful enough combo to dare to attack the monster Abaddon. Sky Blue is currently out with an ankle injury. Sky Blue's finisher is the Code Blue and is a leg trap sunset flip powerbomb. Her theme is Choke by Mikey Ruckus featuring Butcher Babies and kicks ass. Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale is a hero of the AEW women's division. Well, let's be real. She is the hero of the whole fucking division. So far, she has been the only one to stand up to Marina Shafir. Willow Nightingale won the first NJPW Strong Women's Championship and had fire battles against Mercedes Moné and also Viren Emi Sakura. Willow Nightingale won the Owen Cup and was the TBS champion after defeating Julia Hart. Willow has challenged for the ROH World title twice and won the CMLL World Women's Championship in 2024. We haven't seen much of Willow recently, but she has been busy fighting around the world. Is she honing her skills to take on Marina? We can only hope. Willow Nightingale's finisher is Babe with the Bomb, a deadlift gut-wrench sit-out powerbomb. Her theme is Hip Twitch, which is an instrumental by Chase Barker. Yuka Sakazaki. The magical girl Yuka Sakazaki is a centuries-old Oni who feeds off the blood of her enemies. Well, at least in my headcanon she does. But in reality, Yuka is an indestructible ball of hard-hitting energy who is an AEW OG from 2019. Yuka Sakazaki has challenged Athena for her ROH World Championship and Mercedes Moné for her TBS Championship, but has yet to capture a title in AEW. Yuka Sakazaki's finisher is the Magical Girl Splash, which is a diving, rotating splash. Her theme is I Can Fly by YMZ no Masaki. Abaddon. Abaddon the Monster joined AEW in 2020 and has been terrorizing the roster ever since. Abaddon is from the Black Hills and is currently AEW's only undead competitor. They entered the ROH inaugural World Championship tournament, but was unsuccessful after defeating Viva Van, but then losing to Mercedes Martinez. Almost said Mercedes Moné. I knew I would say that. They attempted to claim the ROH Championship again, but was unable to defeat Athena. Abaddon's finisher is the Cemetery Drive, which is a gory neckbreaker. Their theme is Brimstone by Mikey Ruckus, featuring Katie McCrimmon and Parker Yowell. Layla Hirsch. Layla Hirsch began her career in AEW in 2020 and brings a solid wrestling base to her offense. Layla is hard to take down. She is strong and determined to make everyone remember who Layla Hirsch is. Layla has been fighting in ROH and also AEW, but mainly in the ROH roster. Layla's finisher is a top rope balance diving moonsault, and her submission is a nasty cross armbar. Her theme is Legitimate by Mikey Ruckus, featuring JC Clark. Kiera Hogan. Kiera Hogan is a feisty ball of pain. With her hard-hitting strikes and quickness, Kiera is not an easy opponent. After her AEW debut in 2021, she eventually became a member of the Baddies with Jade Cargill and Layla Gray. Kiera joined the ROH roster and challenged Athena to a Chicago street fight for her world championship, but was unsuccessful. Kiera Hogan's finisher is Face the Music, a fisherman netbreaker. Her theme is Let's Get It by Mickey Ruckus. I did Mickey again. I'm taking the Mickey out of Mickey. Taking the Mickey out of Mikey. Crikey. Okay. Mikey, 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 Mikey. Billy Starks. Billy joined AEW and ROH in 2022, and just a year later would be given a chance at Jade's TBS title, but was unsuccessful. That same year of 2023, Starks joined Athena, the ROH World Champion, as a minion in training. Though Billy has challenged Athena twice for her championship, she was never able to beat her mentor. Billy Starks would defeat Queen Aminata to become the first ever ROH Women's World Television Champion, and held it for 112 days before losing it to the current reigning champion, Red Velvet. Billy Starks' finisher is the Star 10, a double lock belly-to-belly inverted slam, and the Boat Driver, which is a wheelbarrow driver. Her theme is Going Home by Mikey Ruckus. Mercedes Martinez. Mercedes Martinez was the Joker in 2019's All Out Casino Battle Royale, but did not stick around long. She did return in 2021 to feud with Thunder Rosa, but ended up teaming with Diamante to take out Dr. Britt Baker and Rebel Rebella. Martinez has been stalking the ROH roster since and won the ROH Women's World Championship while Diana was out with injury. Mercedes would later lose that gold to Athena, who has held it ever since. Mercedes' finisher is called the Bull Run and is a fisherman facebuster. Her submission is the Brass City Sleeper and is a surfboard dragon sleeper. Diamante. Diamante is a tough, hardcore powerhouse. She is an AEW OG joining in 2020 and joined the ROH roster in 2023. Diamante had a hard-hitting tag team with Ivelisse and later on with Mercedes Martinez. In ROH, she has challenged Athena for the world title and tried to capture the ROH World Television title twice. Diamante's finisher is the Code Red and is a sunset flip powerbomb. Her theme is In the Clip by Mikey Ruckus and is quite fucking cool. Anna Jay is an AEW OG joining in 2019. Anna Jay has been a member of the Dark Order and the Jericho Appreciation Society and was briefly with the Outcasts. Jay competed in the TBS Championship tournament but was unsuccessful. She would later challenge Jade Cargill for her title but was defeated. Anna Jay teamed up with Tay Conti, who is currently back in wrestling and battling in Japan, to take on the Bunny and Penelope Ford in a street fight, which they ended up winning. Anna Jay has stepped up to many champions, the most recent being a no DQ match against Mariah May and a fight for Mercedes Monet's TBS championship, but both were unsuccessful. Jay is back after her battle tour of Japan and is more determined than ever to make her moment happen in 2025. Anna Jay's finisher is the Widow's Peak, which is a gory bomb, and her submission is a sleeper hold called the Queen Slayer, named after she defeated Brandy Rhodes with that exact sleeper hold. Next up is the Renegades, Charlotte and Robin. The Renegades are freaking awesome, and they are currently the only like proper tag team in AEW ROH at the moment. Both Renegades are tough fighters, and they are not afraid of any challenge. They are insanely goddamn cool. I love them so much. Their finisher is a bear hug lariat combo. I'm not quite too sure what it's called, but their theme is also very cool, and it's called Going Rogue by Mikey Ruckus. Trish Adora from the Infantry. Trish Adora is another powerhouse who has mainly been stalking the ROH roster. With her team, the Infantry, she has become even more powerful and confident, which has only added to her skills. She is so strong. Trish Adora uses a plethora of moves to defeat her opponents and has a real hard-hitting lariat. Her theme is Embrace the Light by ROH Music. Rachel Ellering. Rachel Ellering is our second to last powerhouse in this strong as fuck roster. Ellering joined ROH in 2023. Don't know much about Rachel Ellering as of now, to be perfectly honest, all cards on the table, but I'm really looking forward to catching up with stuff that she's done in ROH. Her finisher is called the Boss Man Slam, which is a spinning side slam. Her theme is Shine the Light by Mitchell Ray Marlowe. Lady Frost. Last but not least, we have Lady Frost. Lady Frost is incredibly strong, incredibly athletic, and full of confidence. What Lady Frost can do in the ring will absolutely astound you. We've seen her on AEW a few times, but mainly she's been freezing the ROH roster recently. Her finisher is the Temperature Drop, which is a corkscrew moonsault done to absolute perfection. I wanted to kind of like add in like a cutter in there. I totally reckon she could do that. Her theme is Her Majesty by Mikey Ruckus. I'm Bex Bastet, and you are listening to Don't Call Me Diva. Stepping into the world of women's wrestling, from New Japan to AAA to ROH, we'll visit them all. And if there's anyone that you would like me to know about, please feel free to drop a little comment in the comment section. You can reach me on Threads at Bex_Bastet. If you're a cunt, I will block you. Thank you. And good night.